Welcome to the Better Stack podcast, where we talk about all things AI, software dev, and new technology. I'm one of your hosts, Richard, and I'm joined by
James
and Andres. Hello.
We are going to talk about MCP UI, missing laptop, possibly large behavioral models, and also using the new JLM coding plan. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. James, what's going on with the MCP UI?
Yeah, so this was a thing I saw come across my Twitter feed, I think a couple of months ago, and I sort of looked at it like, didn't we go from websites to MCP servers, and now we're going back to UI, but in MCP servers, and sort of passed over it. But then I saw some, obviously there's a lot of big names attached to it, and Shopify themselves are quite keen on MCP UI, so that was sort of why I decided to look into it. Essentially, it is what it sounds like. You just return UI from your MCP servers. And obviously, the current way that you build out chat apps, you can do like generative components and things like Vercel's AI SDK, but it's always the client who controls the component that comes back. Whereas with MCP UI, it's the MCP server that is generating the UI or has the UI that then is shown in the client. So obviously, the long-term plan is that ChatGPT would add support for something like MCP UI. And if I say, hey, I want to go buy some shoes or something like that, it would maybe go to the Nike store, call their MCP server, and then it would bring up a Nike-specific component within ChatGPT. Because the benefit of it is essentially what they're saying is the modern shopping experience in ChatGPT isn't nice. It's all text at the moment. And to be honest with you, most brands probably aren't going to want you to be using ChatGPT to shop because they lose their branding essentially. They don't have any control over the component, the way it's displayed, anything like that within ChatGPT. So MCP UI gives back that control to the individual stores and MCP servers that you'd use to then have their own UI components and sort of user interfaces. And it's very, very early days. Essentially, basically, MCP UI could almost be summed up at the moment as an iframe. That basically is what it renders within ChatGPT, and tools like Goose also have support for it. Goose was one of the first ones. They're quite keen on it as well. So yeah, essentially just shows an iframe at the moment, but then it also has abilities on top of that so that the iframe can then communicate back and maybe start another tool call or start another prompt and different things and notify the user. Then it also has things like remote DOM, which is something out of Shopify that is very complex and a whole other sort of topic that we could get into, where essentially the client still controls the UI, but then you can spin off a sandbox like JavaScript instance that then has a way to communicate with that UI, so it would look like ChatGPT, but Nike would be controlling elements of that UI. As I said, the remote DOM stuff gets very, very confusing. That's a whole other can of worms that I'd have to do a whole other video about. But that is essentially what MCP UI is. It's almost, how can we give back better shopping experiences and things like that within ChatGPT, because text isn't a great format. We left text behind with CSS and JavaScript, and then ChatGPT sort of brought it back, but now we need to find a way to add that back in. And especially for complex flows, like maybe you're booking a seat for a concert or something, do you really trust ChatGPT to be picking that out for you in the future? Probably not. And that's sort of, where MCP UI stands.
I have a question about that. So from what you just described, I kind of have the feeling that like it's just a fancy database query, because you don't want to display freeform text, right? You want it to be constrained in a well-defined template component, right?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that just inputting data from your database into a, uniform component that you just wrote in a way?
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much is what the modern web already is. You're just essentially taking it, like you're basically just rendering in individual React components.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's the same as that, but obviously the point is getting this into ChatGPT and tools like that, and also not having the client or the tool like ChatGPT, Claude, and Goose be the ones controlling the UI. It then goes off to me when I'm building my site. I can have my site's UI on that chat platform. And I think it's sort of a nice goal that I'm a bit skeptical of, like if ChatGPT would ever adopt it, because then it means that the flow's sort of outside of their control. And I think big companies like OpenAI like everything to be under their control and sort of branding and everything like that. So I'm a little skeptical on its adoption, but obviously with names like Shopify behind it, who obviously benefit from the commerce experience, it might get there.
Because if you think about like the sheer amount of electricity that is needed to make that request versus just querying a database, it's just not commercially viable if you just need to return recommended products based on your personal preferences or something like that.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's too much more than literally just ChatGPT already visiting the site. It's essentially just visiting the site but giving you a nicer preview of it, because an MCP server is very simple. It literally is just, as I said, it works on iframe technology basically at the moment. So it is just taking a website that exists somewhere, but giving it the ability to show up within the LLM tools and also to have a way to communicate back.
Yeah. Well, TLDR, what I wanted to say is I think it's over-engineered.
It could be. It's very early engineered, I will admit as well. Like everything that I've looked at in MCP UI will probably change in a year when it starts to get adopted because they're almost treating it as sort of a playground at the moment to see what sticks.
What's your personal experience? Have you tried it? Is there something that you liked about it?
Yeah, just overall at the moment, I tried it, and as I said, what I like about it is that you are able to have control of the component and bring your sort of own branding and your own user experience into the component because it's the fun of the web. Like we've been designing interfaces and trying to improve on them, and you have web designers, UX engineers, everything like that, and then ChatGPT came along and was just like, no, it's all text again. So it's sort of bringing that back in. But as I said, it's very early days, so it is just mostly experimenting with it at the moment and showing off that you can like load in iframes with components and then have that component talk back to the tool. But even there isn't fully implemented yet. Like Goose doesn't have support for the iframe messaging back yet, unless it's just a prompt. But I think it's overall, I like the team that's working on it. I think they're going in a sort of good step with it, and I'm very interested to see sort of the first experience that we might get from a company like Shopify that would involve this.
Cool. I was going to say there's quite a famous web dev personality out there, Kent C. Dodd.
Yeah.
He did a lot in the React world when it comes to writing testing components. And he said he's big into MCP now. He said in the future, people won't browse with a browser. They'll just use MCP tools. And when he said that, I was like, I can't imagine that happening. But now that you've mentioned MCP UI, if that takes off and does really well, then you could just chat to a browser with natural language and get what you want through that, which is interesting.
That's the ultimate goal, is essentially developers sometimes think only in their self and we're quite technical savvy, but when you think of like your mum, your dad, or someone like that who may just know ChatGPT, and if they start trying to shop on there, it's going to be a nicer experience to show them a checkout flow from a site like Shopify or Nike or someone like that than relying on OpenAI, trying to do it with computer use or something like that. So yeah, the ultimate goal is, I would say it's more the developers implement it for an end user who is going to be less technical savvy, because it is, as I said, just sort of showing a website in ChatGPT or something like that. And I actually referenced Kent C. Dodds in my video because he's got some good code examples on it. And yeah, one of the things that I am curious about with it is how authentication gets solved. Because obviously if you're buying something from Nike, or maybe you want to log into a site that then has to render in an MCP UI component, as far as I could see, there wasn't much involving that yet. I assume you could possibly, because technically it is just an iframe, so you might have a way of logging in via that. But I still think it might be a bit of a confusing flow for them to solve.
What stage is it at now in terms of, you said it's really early, but how usable is it? And is it in ChatGPT and Goose? Like, how usable is it?
It's mostly just in Goose, and they're still essentially implementing it. I believe there's one other tool, but I've forgotten its name. It's very early. This is like, you probably won't see this for another year or two being actually implemented in production. I actually listened to a podcast with the team talking about it. They essentially said they're just trying to get it in like designers' hands and developers' hands to see what they could build with it so that they can sort of plan the future around that as well, because I imagine the spec will change quite a lot as well.
I hate to be the party pooper here, but I do have to say that I find this idea scary that we're going to be using MCPs in the future instead of like regular database queries, because we already have the problem that people are overusing AI and those data centers just can't keep up. And if now every website is going to transform itself into an MCP whatever chat, that's going to put more strain on electricity and all the resources. So yeah, you got to think about that problem as well.
Yeah, I mean, if we had to look into like climate change and everything for all of our AI videos, it would be a bit of a depressing talk. I think, unfortunately,
yeah,
I don't think they're going to stop, if I'm honest with you, Andres.
For sure.
They're going to keep going with that AI stuff as long as they can. So yeah, I think that might be a losing battle.
The main idea was that like, if there is no problem, why fix it? I just don't see this as a very stressing problem that people are having. The way web works right now is good enough. Like Amazon has, I think, cracked the code of how to make shopping addictive. I don't think there's much more improvement you can do with AI in that field. So I'm just thinking it's useless in this sense.
Yeah, well, I almost think it might be a little bit reactionary as well, in terms of like, obviously ChatGPT and Claude and that lot all want to fight to keep people on ChatGPT and talking to it. So they're probably going to want to add a shopping experience in the future. But what these big companies don't want to happen is that they take away all of their UI and all of the dark patterns they might be doing to get you to buy more and things like that. They're still going to want that to be in their app. Hopefully with MCP UI, obviously they would have control of the components. If you want to go with the skeptical route, maybe they'll add their own dark patterns back into the components and things like that.
I was going to say, on the topic of overusing AI, I think for coding, we've gone past that already. There are some things that I just type to do, and it's just like a one-liner change that I could have done. And I was like, why did I type it? I could have done this myself. But it's just the habit of asking AI so often.
Yeah, I've done that. It's like, make sure it can't go above like 400 pixels. And I was like, this is one Tailwind class. I could have just written that. But because I was just already in the chat, I was like, let's just prompt it from here.
But I think the majority of people who say thank you after a prompt is still bigger than coders combined.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't Sam Altman say you shouldn't say thank you to an LLM?
Exactly. Even Sam Altman said that. Even he said that.
Look, I'm going to keep being nice to my AI because one day, if it gets too advanced, I want to be on the good books.
When it gets a robot body and it's moving around and stuff, and people,
Yeah, I've seen Boston Dynamic videos. They're getting close.
Yes, yeah.
And spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about that later in this podcast episode.
Oh, okay. That's a spoiler for me as well. Is it a spoiler or is it a segue? Segue into Andrew's topic.
I guess we could do a segue. So lately I've been researching these things called large behavioral models, which is like a next evolutionary step of LLMs. So basically what you do is you take your regular LLM model and you hook up a custom designed LoRa interface or something that you have specifically programmed for usage for robots. And it's actually pretty interesting because I think now these big companies like Helix, we've all seen their demos where they have like these humanoid robots that help you sort your groceries and everything. And this technology is working pretty well, actually. And when I was researching this topic, what surprised me was that like the amount of energy it takes to generate all these operations is not that big. So you can basically run those robots with embedded GPUs on the device. So I think the next frontier is going to be large behavioral models. I think that's going to be like the next gold rush once we get to the point where people will start shipping more robots and everything. Because I feel like I've heard a lot of companies already are preparing for that, Elon Musk included.
Yeah. That's Optimus, isn't it? His one?
Yeah, so he has Optimus. Then there's Helix, which I think from everything, Helix is like the Apple of robots. It looks the best. And then there's Boston Dynamics, which has a different mission. I think that their mission is to make it as functional as possible. And they have also made a lot of improvements in how to actually train the model with using as little compute as possible to get the most output possible. And they've been quite successful so far. So this is something that I'm going to mention also in my next YouTube video. But folks, if you're planning to get into robotics, now's the time. Now's the time to start learning large behavioral models. Maybe there's also like a lot of cool open source projects where you can like simulate robot movements. Like NVIDIA has a thing called Isaac Lab, I think it's called, where you can basically design your own large behavioral models without an actual robot, but it does apply all the physics simulations, so you can actually like calculate how much it would, how much electricity it would spend and everything. So basically, if you're a startup and you want to, make a robot for cheap, you can start with Isaac Lab, try to build a MVP, and then, get investor funding and launch your robotics startup. So something to think about.
I was going to say, when you mentioned LoRa, because in my head, LoRa is to do, I could be completely wrong, but LoRa to me is to do with like images. So if you have a base image model, you can create a kind of another, I don't want to say layer, but like something else on top of it.
It is like a layer.
Specifically. Yeah. So how would you explain it?
So basically what Helix is doing, they have a LoRa specifically for vision. So the way it works, they have a system that combines three things: vision, text, and joints. Once you get all those three inputs, you then feed them into one of their large behavioral model systems, and then it calculates how those three go together and what operation do you need to do based on that. So it's kind of a combination of LoRa's simple text commands and also like, I don't know, joint physics APIs or something like that. And the Helix also had a really cool demo where there's like a toy cactus on the table, and if you asked it to like pick up the cactus, it will understand. Oh, and another thing, the cactus is moving. It's like a toy that is moving all the time. So you can't actually like calculate how you're gonna grab it. It has to be calculated in real time. And it could actually pick it up even though the cactus toy was moving. And also you could pick it up with different prompts, like pick up a toy, pick up the cactus, pick up this object that is moving, and all of those things the robot did understand. So it's quite interesting.
I remember seeing, I don't know if this was true, but it was like one of the hardest things for them to train a robot to do was to peel a banana, because it's like a complex flow that it can't understand, like how to be delicate enough to do it. And then obviously it's got to go to the top and peel it.
Yeah.
I remember that being a really hard challenge. I don't know if they've solved it yet.
I think that is still a problem because like because it also requires you to like, you know, those actions where you need to like stick your thumb in there and
Yeah.
like I don't know if their fingers are that advanced yet. Their fingers are still very kind of primitive in that sense. And another thing that I'm gonna mention, I remember I listened this talk from Jeffrey Hinton, who's like the godfather of AI, and one of the people asked him, what are some foolproof professions that will not be replaced by AI? And he said plumbers, because plumbers do very complex tasks. They have to like get under the sink and get into like these impossible positions that would be almost impossible for a robot to do. So I don't know if that's going to be true in the future, but that was the most interesting thing I've ever heard from Jeffrey Hinton.
It sort of reminds me of, there's always been a discussion about whether you want to create a humanoid robot, whereas that's kind of not the form that you should go for a lot of tasks. Like obviously,
exactly.
If you want a robot to vacuum, you just have a Roomba. Like it doesn't need to be a human that's then holding a robot or a vacuum. I'm always curious about like the actual use case of humanoid and how many use cases they'll have. Seems like they might be trying to do too much and then not be able to do anything good. Whereas if you have a specific machine that's designed for that use case that doesn't have to look like a human,
exactly, that
be
also feels like an over-engineered problem.
Yeah.
On the topic of peeling bananas, how do you guys peel it? Do you do the long bit and snap that bit off, or do you do the other side and pinch?
I go long.
You go long.
Yeah.
This sounds wrong, but I go long too.
Okay, so I used to do that, and I still mostly do that, but the other side is a lot easier. Like I think the monkeys have got it correct, and then we've evolved backwards in that sense. Because all you have to do is you pinch it, and then you peel the bits off. There's no snapping. There's no like, oh, this bit didn't snap. I have to kind of wiggle for ages and then peel it myself manually. No, just pinch, snap, and then you peel it. And you can hold the long bit as like a handle, and that's what it was designed for. So maybe the robot should be learning it that way and not our way.
Probably.
I think I just heard you call me dumber than a monkey.
Well, no, all of us collectively as human beings have evolved backwards from the primates.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You can also like take one of these TikTok channels of life hacks and just feed that knowledge base into a robot, and maybe the robot will learn all of these hacks.
Do they still train these robots by essentially just trying to get them to do the task as many times as possible and then seeing like the optimal path? Because I've seen YouTube videos of that before where it'll be like you have to stack a block next to a wall and then climb over the wall. And like you can see them first trying to learn to like walk, then picking things up, and they just keep doing it until it finally gets it.
Yeah, so that is the classic machine learning approach. Like, fail until you don't, right? But I think with this new approach, they're trying to make it more efficient. That you don't have to fail. You just you try to reason in a way. You're reasoning by also combining vision and your joint whatever movements and text, and then figure out with AI how to most efficiently perform that operation.
You know, I used to watch. There used to be I can't remember the YouTube channel name, but he used to do like AI experiments with machine learning, and like sometimes they would find really funny ways like around the task they've been given because they would still complete it within their parameters, but they just
Yeah.
like find a way to cheat it or like just go through the wall instead of climbing over it.
I know
And
exactly
yeah.
what you're talking about. I think their last video was about Squid Game, how AI learned how to win the red light, green light
Yeah.
game in Squid Game.
Always reminds me of like speedrunners where they find like really weird tricks in the game to get it quicker. Whereas yeah, like AI sometimes did that because its parameter was just to solve the puzzle, not to do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of solving stuff, isn't essentially that how hallucinations happen? So like if you ask an AI to do something and it doesn't know the answer, it would rather give you an answer because it's got a chance of being correct than to not
Yeah.
give you an answer. So maybe that's what it's doing because that's how AIs are kind of programmed in the first place.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just essentially trying to get a final answer out, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's also why we ended up with like experiments where it would blackmail people, is because it would just try and reach whatever the initial prompt you gave it was. So like it didn't care about morals because I mean it doesn't. It's not a human. It just it wanted to complete the task you gave it, and if you said do anything you can, it would do some dangerous things.
I was actually going to ask you, and you said when they were doing the cactus experiment, someone typed in pick up the toy and it would do it. What was the latency between hitting enter and then the robot taking action?
All of them are very slow at this point. And I think some of them are even sped up, but I think it's early days for these robots, to be fair. Also, I think there is a fine balance between doing it fast and doing it safely. Because if you do it too fast, you might, I don't know, break something or punch a wall or something. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they're solving that, to be honest.
You know, there's a lot of Black Mirror episodes and TV shows about like always saying like don't harm humans, but then they find a way around it. So hopefully we don't end up in one of those worlds.
Exactly.
Or it'll be like it has to protect someone specifically, so then it will happily hurt humans to protect that one person. And yeah, there's too many TV shows out there modeled on that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I watched this video on Twitter. It's from a Chinese company that are doing robots as well. And it's basically meant to be the fastest robot at getting up after falling down. And they kept on kicking it and hitting it. I've forgotten what it's called. But it was going quite viral. And I just think it's only a matter of time before they're going to have like a war between robots and then it's just going to
I've seen those videos. They are. I always do watch them. Like it's weird because humans, we do feel bad for the robot, even though I know I shouldn't. Like I shouldn't feel bad for it because it's just a piece of technology. But it's like because they make it look like a human or a dog, your brain's just like, oh, don't do that, don't kick it. It's like that's so mean.
And
But
also, I think Boston Dynamics also had a similar experiment, and they have almost mastered it. Like that, you can't knock the robot over. It's just not possible. Yeah. No matter how hard you try.
There's a video I was watching the other day by Corridor Digital. It was years ago, but they make like VFX stuff, and one of their videos was the Boston robot, but like it turned on them.
Yeah,
it was a very funny video. It's
that's
like
a good one.
That is the Black Mirror episode. And it was like I remember the original Honda, like they had a robot really early days, and like its challenge was always getting downstairs because that was like a really hard thing for humanoid robots to do. But I think that one's also solved because I've seen the Boston one do a backflip and land.
Yeah, those dogs are doing backflips like it's nothing.
But no, I mean, it is kind of like it's the AI I am most excited for is the one that can take away like doing the laundry and stuff like that in the house.
Exactly, right?
Like that's far more fun than taking away from like creating art and things like that. Like it's a much better avenue to go down, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm also all for that.
Yeah.
I'd rather do art and let my robot do my dishes.
It's like LLM seemingly took the creative stuff away from us when it should have like taken the laundry away so we could do the creative stuff. So
exactly,
it's exciting, but I do understand it's a way harder task.
Yeah,
it seems like Optimus have kind of cracked it. Well, not cracked it. People said the videos were fake. I don't know what to believe, but yeah, the Tesla robots seem to be quite impressive.
So here's the thing, have you seen like actual technical papers about Optimus or technical breakdowns? Because Helix, they're actually publishing their technical breakdowns. So I would trust Helix is actually performing, while Optimus may be just a marketing gimmick.
Guess we'll have to wait and see and let them battle.
Yeah. Show us the receipts, Elon.
So, Andres, you have some interesting stories about your travels. Can you tell us more?
Yes. My recent travel experience was the worst I've ever had in my life because something happened that I thought would never be possible, but it did happen. So, long story short, I'm in Toronto airport and I'm going through security. And as always, the security guys ask you to remove your laptop from your bag, put it in a separate tray. I'm a good citizen. I do that. I put it in a separate tray. I go through the security. Everything is fine and dandy. I see my tray with my laptop. I take it, put it in my bag, and I go to my flight. And then it was a transatlantic flight, so it's like a 7-hour flight. And during the flight, I decided I might work a bit, do some stuff on my laptop. So then I take my bag and open my laptop. And my surprise was that the login page was not my login page and it was not my laptop. And the sheer coincidence that there was the exact same MacBook Pro model, this exact same size, exact same color going through the security at the same time when I was going through it. And that I took someone else's laptop, it was just the most horrible feeling ever. Luckily, it ended up quite positively because the other person took my laptop, so we basically exchanged laptops. But we found each other and we decided to exchange them, FedEx each of our laptops to one another. And he was a super cool dude. So I'm very thankful for that. But this brings up a very good thing that I always overlooked as an Apple user, but I think it's a very, very handy feature that Apple has developed, is that you have this application called Find My, where you can actually find your Mac. And there is this thing called lock mode. And if you enable the lock mode, not only does it lock your computer in a way that no one can ever unlock it, and even if they try to erase the laptop and resell it, it's impossible because you can't do that. So basically, the device is useless for anyone else than you, which is a very cool feature on its own. But another cool thing is that when you activate the lock mode, you can also type in a message for the user who opens the laptop. So you can say something like, "Hey, I lost my laptop. If you find it, please contact me with this phone number or this email." And I think that's a really cool feature. And I didn't know about this existence because I never needed it. But once the situation arises, you really appreciate that little details like these exist. And I'm not a PC user, so I don't know if PCs or other operating systems have this functionality, but I really praise Apple for having this because I think it's a very, very useful feature.
I know other places have it, but it's like nowhere as close to as good as the Find My one is from memory. Because
Yeah.
see, I know Find My, one of the ways it works as well is it can like bounce off other people's iPhones, and obviously there's a lot of them in the
Exactly.
world. It can do well.
And the same thing happens with Mac, actually. You don't even need a Wi-Fi connection because if you type in that lock mode message, it will try to transfer that message bouncing off of different Apple devices. So that is pretty cool because then someone in offline mode will still see that lock mode message.
Yeah. No, I know there's obviously in London, if you don't know this, there's a big problem with people stealing phones. And one of the things they try and do is turn airplane mode on because that does disable it because I think it might need like Bluetooth or some signal that gets sent to it.
Mm.
So there's like a load of shortcuts that people invent where like if you turn airplane mode on, it will just turn itself back on and like off. But yeah, it's one of the tricks that people use when they steal phones because they don't want you to activate that Find My lock because it does make it very hard to then
Interesting. I didn't
resell
know
the
that.
parts. But yeah, if you come to London, get a phone strap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a foolproof system, but I have to give credit to Apple. They're doing their best, and these
Yeah.
features are really cool.
I can't live without Find My. I have AirTags on my keys, wallet, like everything. And then if I lose it in the house, I press Find My, and it has like, if you're near enough, it will have like really direct like directions to it. Like if you're a couple feet away, it will literally point you at it and be like you're right next to it, and it's
really?
very useful. AirTags are very cool.
Yeah, AirTags are a very essential accessory for not losing your checked-in luggage.
Yeah. Although I've seen people lose their checked-in luggage, and it's like they know where it is, but they still just can't get it back because like the airline will just refuse to acknowledge it.
Exactly.
So I don't know if that's worse though.
Yeah.
Because like I know it's there, but you won't let me have it. Whereas like if it's just gone and I don't know where it is, at least it's out of my mind.
Yeah.
I guess the moral of the story is dent your laptop or put a sticker on it somehow.
Put dev stickers
So
on
you
it.
know
yes.
it's yours.
Or put something in that tray other than your laptop, so it's not identical. Just a tray with a MacBook Pro, which is 16-inch and gray, space gray or whatever.
Yeah, or the airports could upgrade to the new scanners that don't even need you to take anything
Yeah.
out. So that'd be a nicer option.
Yeah.
That one's much easier.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially with liquids as well. They have a thing where you don't have to pack your liquids in a bag, and that's amazing. Saves so much time.
Yeah, technology is everywhere, and it's very cool. It's coming along.
Yeah, we just have to be optimistic for the future.
It's funny to think we're going to be the people who are like, back in my day, you had to take out your electrics when you're going for security and take
Yeah.
out your liquids. And the kids would be like, oh, you're so old.
And your grandkids would be like, Grandpa, I can't imagine living in that world.
It's like how I am without like people who didn't have internet. It's like, you live without phones and the internet. How crazy is that? And we'll be like that soon someday.
I think it was a TikTok I heard today where it was some old person was complaining that young people, even though I do this, don't say hello when you ring them. Because like I'm always waiting to see if you're a scammer. And in my opinion, it's on whoever calls me to say who they are first. Like, I don't need to speak to you
Actually, if it's an unknown number, I do the same because I don't want the AI voice recognition software to get my voice signature.
You are a YouTuber, Andres. You might be a bit screwed on that one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I literally have set up a password. I've said this before with my like family, but like I would have to say that phrase if I ever rang them in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, my voice is out there enough on the internet. Like 11 Labs can clone it already. I've done it myself.
Yes, my family has done the same actually.
It's convincing enough. So I recommend setting up passwords with your family, only in person.
Yeah.
Get all the iPhones out the room.
So James, what is your password?
I will never tell.
Something about bananas peeling backwards.
But yeah, I always
Cool.
heard as well that if someone rings you, you should stay silent because they might check if the line is like dead or not. But it's also, I realized today I literally got a scam call, and iOS 26 now has phone screening like Google's had for a while. And it's very useful because it literally says, I'm asking them who they are. And then I can see them just hang up immediately. And I'm like, well, you obviously weren't that important then.
Next is my topic, and it's actually, I've titled it the GLM coding plan, but it's a bigger kind of topic around why I think people should not be kind of exclusive or married to Anthropic models, because there are a lot of new models that are coming out now that are, I wouldn't say better than Claude, I wouldn't even say as good, but they're getting really close and they're so much cheaper, especially the GLM plan, which is, so it's $3 a month for more usage, but it's $3 because they've changed it recently. It used to be $3 forever, but now it's $3 for the first month and then $6 afterwards. But it's still really cheap compared to Claude. And I think they've got a yearly plan, which is $36 for the whole year, for the first year. And then after that, it's like 72, I want to say. But yeah, the GLM models are really good. I've been using them exclusively, I guess, up until Supernova came out, which I'll talk about later. Yeah, GLM models have been really good, and they're fast, and they're so much cheaper than Claude or, yeah, Anthropic or Sonnet or whatever models. And also, GPT-5 as well is also quite cheap. It's not super cheap, but it's cheaper than Anthropic. So, yeah, the GLM coding plan is really cool. People should use it more, and people should kind of jump between models as well, because I think if you stick to Anthropic, unless you have the money or unless you're sold to the way of like Claude's coding style, I think, yeah, other models are really good.
I was going to say, it sort of brings up a debate that I had once of like, would Cursor make their own models? But then they sort of benefit by not doing it, because I prefer to use Cursor because I can then use all of the other models in there. And like, while all these other models are fighting, I'm not going to pick one. So yeah, honestly, I quite like GPT-5. I think it's fine now. The release was bad, but I actually use it as my main one. And then
Really?
for coding, I use Grok 4.
Wow,
because that one's
look
quite
how
fast.
the tables have turned.
Yeah, I don't think GPT-5 is bad anymore. It, like, for the actual just like chat experience, I don't use it much for coding. For chat experience and browsing the web and everything, it's perfectly fine for me. I don't need anything more. And then coding, I tried out Grok 4 because that one, it's just really quick and it's quite fun. But yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
tried GLM yet. I'd have to give it a go.
Who owns GLM?
ZAI or Zhipu. Is it Zhipu or Zipu? It's a Chinese company.
Is it a Chinese
they're meant
company?
to be, yeah, they're meant to be like the OpenAI of China.
I thought you were going to go with XAI of China.
Wasn't like Tencent or
You have
one of
Alibaba.
these companies?
They have Quen. I
Alibaba.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Quen? Yeah, I think they have Quen.
Yeah, Alibaba has Quen.
Yeah. I think there was an article from OpenAI that said there was like Zhipu or ZAI is the one company that is actually doing impressive things in China. So that's why I said they're the OpenAI of China. I don't know if there are other companies that have called themselves the OpenAI of China. But there are loads of Chinese modeling companies out there.
Haven't heard of DeepSeek in a while. I don't know where they released like I
Yeah.
think an update to R1, but they haven't seemingly been like the headline for a while. And when they initially came out, they were everywhere, obviously.
What do you think it is? How can they justify that low price? What are they doing differently than Claude or someone?
That's a very good question. I have no idea. I can only assume, and I'm completely incorrect, I can only assume that they just pay their workers less. I don't know. It's just cheaper to run, cheaper equipment. I don't know. It's just a huge assumption. But
There's
it
a
is
lot that
massively
goes
cheaper.
into like inference costs for AI. So I imagine the model
Yes.
is probably just more efficient at doing something on that sort of path, because obviously Google had Gemini, which was one of the first like extremely cheap models, and it seems like a lot of people are going that way. And then Anthropic just released models with the same price every time. They are the pricey guys now.
Yeah, which I think is justified if you have a super premium model, but because everything else is catching up, it's no longer premium. So
Yeah.
they either have to put the price down or do something amazing with Claude 4.5 or whatever's going to come out next.
But it's also helpful to them that Claude Code isn't open source, because that's sort of one of their moats, is the actual CLI software itself, is why people will continue paying for Claude, because they want Claude Code, because it does seem to be the best one still. So yeah, they've got a few other ways of doing it. But in terms of like the chat interface, I rarely hear of people using Anthropic's one.
It got me thinking, does Amazon have their own AI model?
I think they did. They had something. I don't think it was like a powerful one, but then they also buy other ones.
Interesting.
I think they had
they've
a
got
deal with
Q.
Anthropic.
Is it called Amazon Q?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. But I think they did do a deal with Anthropic because Microsoft did one with OpenAI. So I think they might have some share of Anthropic. I could be wrong. I seem to remember there was some deal between the two. So yeah, I think that was sort of the initial goal, was just like, let's team up with someone who's doing it well.
Yeah. But they've got Bedrock, so you can use all the models on AWS if you wanted to. But it's weird because I've got an Alexa at home and it's still as dumb as when I first got it. But AI has improved so much, I just don't know what they're doing.
I think that they'll do a new model because Gemini just did that with some of the Google ones. They're releasing Gemini into it finally. But then I think they'll probably claim that you have to buy a new updated model with a subscription fee and all of that. Because I am waiting for it. It's the reason I hate Siri. It's like, just be smart. No offense to any Siri out there. But if you're watching this, Siri, I'm sorry. But it just needs an upgrade because it always just has to ask ChatGPT when you ask it something. Like, if you want a question, it will be like, do you want me to ask ChatGPT? It's like, I wish I didn't have to tell you every single time to go and ask ChatGPT. And then the response isn't like streamed back either. So it's just it's a terrible flow. It's just, I wish Apple were doing something on that one.
I think I recently heard that there was a deal made between Anthropic and Apple that they're going to incorporate Claude in Xcode.
Yeah,
as,
they've
like,
done
the
that.
default. They've already done that. Okay.
I think they have, as like, they've got like their own Copilot in Xcode coming soon. I don't know if it's out yet, but it would be Anthropic's model.
So maybe Siri is just using Anthropic behind the
It's
scenes.
definitely not. I can
It's
promise you
not?
that.
Okay.
No. I can ask it such soon. I asked it once, like, what day, like, as in like Wednesday, Tuesday, whatever a date was on, and it replied, if you need help with that, like, seek advice or something. I was like, what? What did you think I just asked you? I was like, what day is next week or something? I can't remember what it was, but it's constantly annoying. And as I said, they partner with ChatGPT for the Siri side of things to say, like, let's go and ask ChatGPT, and now you can, like, take screenshots and circle things on iOS 26. And there's another button that's like, ask ChatGPT, and it's just a clunky flow. It's like, it should just be Apple, but then Apple like on-device AI, which they are very good at. But then the on-device AI is never going to be as good as a massive data center.
For sure.
Okay. I was going to say in my rant earlier, sorry, I live up north and I was born down south, so the words kind of change. But I was talking about Code Supernova, which is kind of a new stealth model. Some of you might have heard of it, but no one has convinced me as to what it is, if it's a new Claude or a new Grok. And I've been using it for a few days now, and it is really fast. But I don't know. Yeah, it's fast, but not as good as Claude. So if it's going to be a Claude, it might be like a quantized small version.
I get the vibe that Claude wouldn't do stealth models. I don't know why. They give me a vibe that they wouldn't do stealth models, and they might just test it with a few of their like big clients first, and then that would be it. I think obviously Grok seemingly have a bit more of an open source mindset because they released Grok 2 as open source as well. I can't remember if it was open weight or whatever the term is for it, but I thought that was actually quite a cool move, like going back and releasing your older versions now that they're outdated. So yeah, I don't know. I get the vibe from Claude that they're not doing stealth models. It's I always feel like it's going to be someone outside of OpenAI, but I can't remember if the other ones were GPT-5, the other stealth models.
There was one stealth model that was a GPT, but I don't know if Horizon Alpha was. I haven't found that out yet.
XAI and Grok have done a stealth model. That was definitely confirmed. Yeah, no, as I said, it's just purely based on vibes, that one.
Yeah. But if you do use Grok as your main kind of coding model, you should try out Code Supernova while it's free, just to
I'll give it a go
and contrast.
Wait, but James just said he uses GPT as his.
No, I use it for my chat model, but for the code model, I use Grok. Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's just because I'm mainly like on T3 chat and GPT-5.
That makes all the difference, because I thought you're crazy enough to use GPT-5 as your coding tool.
I use other models for that. It usually is like default to Claude 4 Sonnet if nothing's happening, and then sorry.
It's not that bad.
I agree with you. I use it.
You can use it for code. It's not that, like, there's an option. You can set the reasoning, and if you set GPT-5 at high reasoning, it's not bad at code. It's pretty decent.
To be clear, I'm on your side here, Richard. I've used it for code before. It's just mainly I'm using Grok at the moment because it was like the new one that came out, and I really like how fast it is. It makes
I'm completely neutral. I just heard bad things about it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there were a lot of bad things about it when it first came out, but I think they've worked on it behind the scenes, because obviously it was like that automatic routing and everything. They probably improved that bit. So yeah, I'm not slandering it, but I'm also not saying it's the best model out there. I'll remain neutral.
Has anyone tried Codex? The new Codex? The new Codex?
No, not yet. I think it released when I was on holiday, which is typical that, new models and everything comes out. It's like now in the world of AI, when you get back from a holiday, you have to scroll up the Twitter feed and see the 50 new inventions that have come out. And I haven't tried it yet. I know the naming scheme is endlessly annoying, because now I think they have Codex, like the online agent thing that you can add into GitHub.
Yes.
Codex, the CLI tool. Codex, the GPT-5 model. It's just, just retire the name Codex, guys. Ask ChatGPT for some names. That's what it's there for. But I haven't given it a go yet.
No, I haven't tried it either, but I do need to try it. It might be the savior for coding on GPT-5. Not that it's bad, but it could be better. Yeah,
and we spoke before that I don't have a good opinion of the name Codex when it comes to the CLI, so I don't know. It's it put me off already.
And that's it for the Better Slap podcast. Thank you all for listening. Find us where you find all your podcasts. We're everywhere, Spotify, Apple, and soon to Pocket Casts. Don't hold me on that, but we will be on Pocket Casts by the time you're listening. But thank you again for listening, and from me, it's goodbye.
From me, it's goodbye.
From me, it's also goodbye.
Until next time, I don't know how to end. We'll just end.
I think that's fine.
I'll edit it somehow.